very warm welcome, everyone. It's hit 4 o'clock on my side, and I think we are ready to get our session underway this afternoon here in Cape Town, South Africa. I just want to remind you that our open source training platform is where we enjoy to welcome leaders and managers from anywhere around the world to join us for an hour of sharing knowledge and expertise in a training format to provide you with critical skills for the future world of work. Our sessions are based on our published research that forms part of our 2030 curriculum. That's linked to our World Economic Forum's Future World of Work report. Our open source training sessions is a preamble to our e-learning courses. So if you're interested in learning more or enrolling you or your team on any of our courses, please make sure that you connect with us after the session. So today, to ensure that our session runs smoothly, I have some housekeeping rules that we just need to keep in mind, please. All microphones and other devices to be muted. I would also like to encourage you, our audience members, to please interact in our chat box. Our moderator will be on the keypads and ready to answer any of your questions, but we also encourage you to interact with any of the other attendees. This session will be recorded, so please be aware that you can either share this recording with any of your teammates or anyone in your organization should you wish to repurpose it for any reason. So wherever you are in the world, I hope you're comfy and you have your cup of tea or coffee, because our lead facilitator tonight is Roshni Cornelius, and she's joined by Sharon Benting and Maria Pepino, who is her ETD team here at Omni. Just a little bit of a reminder of what they'll be covering this afternoon. They'll be unpacking the concept and value of collaboration in the workplace. They'll also be exploring the traits of a collaborative leader, and they will also look at practical tips to help you develop collaboration in your organization. The show on the road tonight, so we're going to kick off tonight, and I'm going to hand over to you, Sharon. Thank you very much and enjoy the session this evening.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much, Jade. I was a little bit excited and I was really eager to switch on my camera a little bit earlier. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our second session of Open Source for 2022. We are so grateful that you're able to join us this evening. And as Jade shared, today we will be focusing on the concept and value of collaboration. I think we are so gearing for a metaverse future. I can't even pronounce the word. That's the image that you see in front of you, a virtual world where we can interact, do business, do online shopping through virtual avatars. And how do we still collaborate in this future? I mean, I think we try to create a workplace of participation, cooperation, and probably inclusivity. So for us at Omni, and for me, it is all about togetherness, empowering, transparency, encouraging, and teamwork. This to me equals productivity and an approach that needs to be taken by collaborative leaders. And I think that's probably Roshni's focus this afternoon. Our future is definitely collaborative. We know that connectivity is a significant component of technology, and our workplace becomes more inclusive when we connect from anywhere. Jay just welcome people across continents. So I think that's our intent. We live in a rapid change in lifestyle with massive disruption. So how do we keep up with the space is what we need to talk about. And how do we build exponential organizations that is not just about applying, incorporating new technologies, but combining it to face the challenges that we do in our work environments daily. So today, let's take some time to reflect on what the value of collaboration can do for us in our workplace and how to add value to our future leaders, our millennials. We spoke last month about the 5 generations that we find in our workplace. And I think I listened to a video earlier where we said, what does a CEO look like in 10 or 20 years? That's our millennials, that's online. So Jade has already introduced Roshni. She's an ETD seasoned facilitator. And this afternoon, I'm going to hand over to Roshni. Roshni, over to you.
Wow, thank you so much, Sharon, for that handover. I am really excited about this next hour because, it gives me an opportunity to share and gain insight into how different organizations are adjusting to these challenges that you just mentioned now about, us moving into metaverse. We have to deal with technology and so on. And so the opportunity to explore collaboration really does excite me. The ideal scenario to dealing with complex problems and challenges is that we want to find effective solutions as quickly as possible, despite the conditions, whether it's expected or unexpected. But it's not easy. If it was easy, we would all be doing it perfectly and we wouldn't be here discussing it. And working in isolation individually, it does get us to a point, but in the current climate we find ourselves in, where we are able to explore, as you say, we can go global, we have access to resources and markets that we might not have had access to before. We have to keep our finger on the pulse. We need to collaborate not just on a micro scale, but on a macro scale as well. The fourth industrial revolution will not be the topic of discussion today, but I thought it pertinent to remind ourselves of the environment that is dictating change. And this is the environment that we need to respond to. How we get our products and services to the public, what we offer and what we allow customers and clients to do for themselves, these have all evolved. Everything is more digitized. And taking it a step further, I'm sure that many of us have heard about industries moving aspects of their businesses into virtual space or metaverse, as Sharon introduced to us. So it's no longer just buying online if we're just looking at retail, but it's actually having the shopping experience virtually. So let's just have a quick look at what this actually looks like.
Welcome Semblance, the fashion's entry to the metaverse. Let your audiences immerse themselves with your brand like never before. Explore your product offering, engage with your brand stories for the season, and interact with unique touchpoints. It allows for brands to celebrate their own identity, all powered by advanced technology and inspired gamification. The future of brands, new generation solutions, and gamification is here.
So this is where brands such as H&M and Nike are already making their mark. Although this concept has been around for, with online gaming and such, in other industries, it is now becoming, or fast becoming, the next step in embracing technology. The challenge is that more and more now we have less human interaction, which of course will impact our ability to collaborate even more. So if we are not going to apply ourselves to new ways of engaging on all levels, then we will lose out on the opportunity to prepare and grow our organization and our teams for Workforce 2030. We know how we should respond. We know that we should overcome technological uncertainties that still exist. We know that we should become more agile as organizations. We know that we should be upskilling and reskilling. And one way of dealing with the challenges that it all brings is through collaborative management. So why collaborate? Shannon mentioned so adequately at the start that there's so much technology that's going around. We have different generations within our space. The fact is that collaboration drives growth. It drives customer focus because it allows us to really think about what is going to be required for us to move our organizations to the next level. What is going to be required from us to ensure that our customers and our clients are able to connect with us really quickly and that we are able to give them what it is that they need. And the fact is that collaboration also drives talent retention. People want to be a part of success and they will seek that environment that satisfies that need. People who are involved, who feel valued, they will contribute, they will work hard, and they will be 100% present. And they will remain loyal. And I don't mean 100% present as in physically when you tick that, absent versus present record, but I mean they will be 100% present to contribute, to share your vision and your mission, and to just really be a part of a growing organization. When morale is low and people are looking for inspiration, introducing some changes through collaboration could bring about that spark. When you need more heads than one to work through complex issues, or if you've tried some ideas but it doesn't work, collaboration helps to get unstuck and to see and hear different perspectives. And to ensure people are heard and are empowered to share their opinions, if we really want to foster an inclusive culture in our diverse environments, collaboration will be that key to leading with impact that we spoke about last month. And if we think about it, if we really want to be progressive, if we want to be in the forefront, or even if it's just that we're trying to catch up to where the world is still moving into, then we have to start collaborating on all levels. Yes, it is time consuming. I'm sure some of you are sitting there thinking, it takes long. We have to get people together, feedback. It takes long to get back to us. And yes, there'll be times when the situation doesn't call for collaborative management, but that should be dealt with within context. So, is your organization ready? These 5 key elements by right people can help you determine if your organization is ready for the future. If your organization is ready for becoming an exponential organization. These 5 key elements, it asks, do you have a clear why? And does all your stakeholders really understand it? Is your vision inspiring and impactful? Are you thinking about engaging a flexible workforce that can satisfy your need at any given time when we're looking at staff on demand? And are you engaging your people in the process? Are you engaging them in the business, in the strategies? And are you technologically ready for disruptions? And then the last question that it's asking you is, are you open to change? Is your organization strong enough to deal with change? Collaboration is central to all of these. So before we even talk about what that really looks like, if we were to ask you, is your organization ready for a collaborative management approach? What would you say? And if we were to ask you, what are some of the challenges around collaborative management that you face? What would you say? Let's see as many responses as we can manage in 1 or 2 minutes. On the Mentimeter link that we're going to be posting on the group chat. I see Mario just put it on the chat in the chat box there. So if you can just click on that link and quickly let us hear your thoughts around these 2 questions. And if you don't have access to the chat box, it is showing on your screen at the moment. While all of us are heading over to that poll, and as I share my Mentimeter screen so that you can see the results pop up, Mario is going to talk us through those results.
Sure. Thank you, Roshni. So in the chat, there is your link for Mentimeter. Please connect through and let's see what results we're starting to see so far. So on the first question of, is your organization ready for collaborative management approach? There's still some changes coming through. So it's starting to even out quite a bit. From most organizations' perspective, we can see that many people in many places are already in the process of proudly collaborating, equalizing very nicely there with appearing to be ready to accept collaboration in some areas, but not throughout. And if we look at some of the other challenges there, or some of the other results between ready to introduce collaboration and also not currently ready for collaboration, also seeing a fairly even but a very low spread of results coming through at that point in time. Okay. So why is it actually important for collaboration? It sits inside of us being able to move ourselves as leaders, as well as moving our organizations through effectively as well. Thank Roshni. If you want to change over to the second slide, please. So in our second question, we've posed, what are some of the challenges around collaborative management that we face as leaders? And there are a few key learning points that come out of this word cloud as well. So if we have a look at what is in the cloud, we can see that The changes and challenges, the pace can be very quick. There can be difficulties in communication, lack of clear vision, inclusivity, education, power, not spreading wide enough, trust, forming of teams. So teams are still in the forming stages. They haven't gone into norming or storming just yet. There can be a lot of resistance coming through as well. The priorities inside of our organizations also have an effect on how we collaborate and when we collaborate, and also willingness, transparency as well. And then as we find we spoke about in our last interactions, we spoke about a very mixed workforce in terms of age differentials, and that links very strongly to stubbornness, because not everybody who's in the workforce is willing to engage for change. And with all of that, we need to be able to manage change as well. So some of the key learning points that we can consider when it comes to collaborative managers or management and the challenges that we face is that we do need to consider multiple approvals, because with different levels in the organization, we need to make multiple decisions. It's not always a top-down. Subject matter experts as well, it's becoming far more the norm to use consultants in what we do and how we interact as well. We consult before we make important decisions. There are lots of studies and check-ins and a lot of interactions with people before things happen. With collaboration as well, we've also realized that there's different levels in your decision-making step, and there's more Mulder. Each decision-making step has got multiple steps in it as well, because it's a lot more than just cut and dried through from a top-down perspective. And in many instances, when it comes to collaboration and decision-making, what comes from the bottom actually determines the way we move forward. So we need to remember that we need to be open to dialogue, that vision is important. We need to have leaders who are able to express their vision. We need to have leaders who are able to deal with resistance, but we also need leaders who are willing to engage and move forward and move their organizations forward and move their people forward. It's no longer a workplace related thing. It's now very much a case of we need to manage our people and we need to develop our people in all of this as well. And then as leaders, if we're going to want to work with our people and develop our people, we need to be able to listen. We need to be able to engage with their viewpoints. We need to be willing to alter our positions in some instances, and also prevent a level of blame from happening as well. So we need to be able to work and take responsibility as a collective for any efforts and any changes, any challenges that come through from collaboration, because when we're collaborating, it's not only a one-man thing anymore. Yeah. Thank you, Roshni. So
Thank
on
you
the
so
screen, yeah, you can go over it.
Thank you so much, Mario, for taking us through some of those results. I've made a couple of notes here. We see, lack of vision coming through very strongly, as well as fear and trust, which we'll talk a little bit to on one of the slides that's still coming. But what I'm happy to see is that there are teams who already understand the value and are successfully managing collaboratively. And then for others, I'm equally happy to see that we understand exactly where we are at. And as leaders, we have to acknowledge, and because as we saw things like inclusivity, trust, fear, lack of vision, all of those, communication, lack of skill, all of those coming through, as leaders, we need to take accountability. And we need to start the transformation with ourselves. Who are we as leaders? Are we ready as leaders? Do we have what it takes to foster collaboration? I do want us to take a moment to just quickly reflect on this passage that you see on the screen and share with us in the chat box what you take away from it regarding the traits of a collaborative leader. It says we need leaders who are emotionally intelligent and able to model and champion cooperative working. They'll coach rather than command. They'll be driven by empathy, not ego. The digital revolution needs different, a more human kind of leadership. What are your thoughts on that? Do you agree? What do you take away from that passage? Yep, Lisa says 100% agree. Thanks, Lisa.
Roshni, I've
Yes.
shared an article that I found in the chat, and it's about Tony Shea, who was the founder of Zappos. And we
Yes.
were linking to Metaverse and everything else that's happening inside of the Metaverse. And one of the things with him is he was described to be a visionary leader. But the bigger part of his being is that he actually he encouraged collaboration a great deal. So
Mm,
with his encouragement of collaboration, he looked at pain point removals. So being emotionally intelligent and creating cooperative environments. He realized that there was an issue in his business around the returns process. And then
right.
with that returns process, he used problem solving as a method to get collaboration. But that level of collaboration actually required them to move their business from San Francisco to Las Vegas.
Mm,
And with that, he actually found multiple things were being solved in the process as well, with the staff being happier at the end of the day. So they could actually focus on things being done in-house rather than having external providers reliant on moving their stock or changing over their product as well. So that
right.
definitely it improved the level of employees that he maintained in the business. It changed the cost of living for there's a lower cost of living, so it changed the environment for the staff as well, and they were happier in that space to again and willing to cooperate a lot more with him as well. And then
Right.
he was very strong on servant leadership and focusing on building relationships and actually getting involved, getting stuck in working with everybody, encouraging participation, and also being willing to learn. I think
Mm,
that's one of the things that we find as well as in collaboration. We need to be willing to learn as much as we are wanting to guide or do things very differently from what we anticipate.
absolutely. Thanks, Mario. Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for sharing that link to the article as well. I did see it pop up in the chat box, and I love the part around where leaders look at what are the pain points. I love that because that is what that's the kind of thinking that is required in order to smooth things and to make processes more efficient and effective, but not just for the customer and the client, but also for the staff, also for the people that you work with. And so part of this quote where it says driven by empathy, not ego, I think that is exactly what comes through for me in this particular article, is that as a leader he was prepared to go down to the ground, to understand and experience what it is like to engage with customers. And for me, that really did stand out quite nicely. I see Tariq says, I agree, because being able to lead others to a vision is more effective than leading others to see only yours. Absolutely, Tariq. It is about sharing and making things transparent. And again, from that bubble that that word cloud that we saw, with the poll, communication came through. Lack of vision came through. Maybe not lack of vision as in there is no vision, but it could also just be that the vision wasn't shared, or it wasn't shared adequately. People didn't understand their role, their purpose. Where do I fit into this vision that is yours? As you mentioned, the Tariq. And then Lisa says, business, shareholders, departments, teams, clients are people, humans. Absolutely. If we're not highly skilled on human behavior and getting the best out of people, we will never be able to collaborate and hone individual talents and skills. 100%, Lisa. And it boils down to, are we taking the time to know our people? Are we taking the time to understand what they're really good at and leveraging that? And what they are still struggling with, and understanding, being emotionally intelligent about, do I push a little bit? Do I stretch a little bit? Or do I give time? Because everybody is different. And so I do want to wrap up this slide by saying that, we can't ignore that operationally, many organizations are still struggling with things like time management and decentralized. We have such diverse groups of people that we.
Hi everyone, we do apologize. We seem to be having some technical glitches. We have our tech team that is on board and just trying to sort Roshni out. So please do try to hang 10 because she's going to be back real soon. Perhaps a question I can put in the chat box in the meantime, and just ask all of you to engage and to answer it. And then as soon as Roshni's back, I know that she's going to be covering that soon. Yes, Sharon Myberg, collaboration, demonstration, absolutely, indeed, especially with online. We need a team of collaborators that are supporting each other because we are so used to knowing that this is something that is possible and going to come into our path sometime or other. And we're just lucky when we don't get any of them in a session. Okay, so I'm just going to be looking for that question. All right, so the question that I'm going to be popping into the chat box will be, what does a collaborative environment look like for you? If you can just share your thoughts in the meantime, and then we can take a look at that a little bit later. Sharon and Mario, I know that you guys are still online as well. Perhaps you can also share some of your thoughts with us in terms of, I mean, these are probably challenges that you face on a daily with having to do online now on top of face-to-face. How do you navigate through these sorts of situations or this environment on a daily?
Hi, Jade. The chat box is my friend. I'm so glad you posted that question because I think this is such a good opportunity, as Tariq is saying. This is a good example. So Mario does quite a bit of online training, and you're absolutely right. We've got to play tag team when it comes to situations like these to ensure that we still continue with meeting our outcomes. So Mario, give us an example of what you've had one recently. I know that when I had with a group of learners that I trained recently, I just had a group chat. You've got so many different ways of connecting with your learners that you are able to continue the learning. And I think that's important. And what you've just stepped in to do in terms of in our role as facilitators to optimize the learning and thinking on your feet. Sometimes you think that your feet's going too fast and you're not getting to the answer. So, I mean, we run quite a bit of online training. Absolutely the first time that this has happened, and we find ways to connect with the learner. I mean, we find ways to, if you lose your PowerPoint slide or you lose your connection to be able to ensure that you're still going to meet the outcome of the day. And using this, I have to say, using this as an example for future leaders to say, so what are we doing to be willing to change quickly and to be flexible to do things differently. Yeah, that's definitely it. This is so real. Yeah, I didn't expect it to happen today, Jade, and it did.
It's real, very organic, authentic indeed. Well, thank you for that, Sharon. We've also got some comments that are coming through here. I can just take a moment to read them. We have Sharon Myberg saying, we are all on a learning journey. When a glitch happens, it gives an opportunity for learning. Absolutely. Dion Berger also has a lot to say, saying having a clear goal for each meeting that directly relates to the responsibilities of all attendees. Assigning meeting responsibilities to each attendee so everyone has a specific way in which they are expected to participate. Recording meetings to share with anyone unable to attend. We also have Sage coming through here saying, for me, going from unstructured ideas and thoughts to structured, where everyone has collaborated and done research and have had discussions. And that was just in commentary towards the question that was asked earlier. We also have Sia de Lemeni saying, yours is a perfect example of team working together to achieve the same goal. Then we also have Lisa Moldenhauer, our MD at Omni, saying, people who want to work together for a greater good, which is the why, they don't have to think the same. Being diverse is critical and beneficial, but having the same foundation of the greater good will ensure we have our eye on the prize. All right. Oh, Roshni is back.
Ah, gosh, that is collaboration right there. And I heard little bits of what you were saying, or some people were saying that these things happen. This is what we encounter when we do go virtual. And it is just about making sure that we understand how to get back on track. And the team, I can see and hear, has done fabulously in terms of just making sure that we still keep, we still share some insights with you. Thank you so much, Jade and team. No, Sharon, I will never do something like that on purpose. I'm not quite sure where we got frozen, where we got stuck in terms of what I was still sharing, but this was the last slide where I was still just talking around the fact that we do have to bear in mind that we are dealing with people, and I think it came through very strongly in some of the comments that I just quickly had a squiz through in the chat box. That people, we are dealing with people with different personalities and different personal challenges, and that is where the empathy of a leader should step in. So I'm just going to pick up where we left off, guys. Just in terms of going into, we were talking about the transformation needs to start with us. Do we know who we are? Do we know what it's going to take in order to collaborate, in order to foster this collaborative environment and to nurture it? And when we look at the different types of leadership, we are saying that effective leaders are those who have an effective transformative purpose, that their goals and objectives, not just for the business but for the team, is such that it inspires the teams that they work with, that the leader creates the culture that's necessary for innovation, because we all know that no innovation will happen if people do not collaborate. One of the challenges is, of course, getting buy-in. And again, if we go back to some of the challenges that you mentioned in that word cloud, trust came through. So the leader will have to inspire people to move from that untrusting, if I can call it that, environment to a space where they are and can be transformative. If you just have a look at the level 4 and level 5 leaders that you see here on the screen, the emergent leader, we can see that we need someone that has an enthusiastic mindset, that nurtures a collaborative culture, that is inspirational, and that has a real passion for work. One of the takeaways that we must highlight for our teams when we do appeal to them to participate in a collaborative process is that this will not only benefit the organization, but also their own development as future leaders. And this is where we tap into our people really also having their own aspirations, making sure that they understand that there is a why for them there as well. And if they understand the process, imagine the success that they will have in future. Remember, we want to lead with impact. Again, the theme of last month. We want the whole person to be impacted and not just the employee. Now, if you have a look at the level 4 emergent leader, again, I'm sure that this was not placed in any particular order, but if you look at, it says enthusiastic mindset, and then it says team ethos, and then collaborative culture. For me, I see it as you need a healthy team ethos in order to foster collaboration. It cannot be a natural expectation that we have, where we say we have teams of people, and so they should be working well together. Humans have egos, and by nature it creates conflict that could hinder the process. But if it's dealt with intelligence, it can be bypassed. So, what does it mean to be truly collaborative? Let's look at an interesting TED Talk that mentions an example of what not to do. And this little clip might seem dated, but I thought the content is still interesting in terms of just really sparking some interesting debate. So I would like you to share with us afterwards whether you actually agree with what this speaker says or not. So let's have a look.
Here's research done by IBM around collaboration. They know that if you have a real jerk who knows nothing, we prefer not to go to him for information or collaboration. We know that if you have a warm, wonderful person that has a lot of information, we want to hang out with them and get all the information. But here was the thing. What if you have someone that's kind of a jerk but really has a lot of information? And you have somebody who is warm and approachable and empathetic, doesn't have all that much information, has some. Who would you go to? Well, when they asked this, people said, oh, well, of course I would go to the jerk with the information. But they wouldn't. When they actually looked what people do, we will avoid this person who has all the status and power signals, and we will squeeze every last bit of knowledge out of the nice guy. We just will. So I have seen leaders, simply by the way they dress, kill collaboration. I was at an offsite on a Saturday. People were there in a collaborative meeting, dressed as one would on a Saturday. You know, you're in khakis, you're in t-shirts, you're in that. And in comes the executive who's supposedly in charge of this. He walks in, power tie, designer suit, Rolex watch. I mean, just, first of all, he was late. Remember, non-verbally, time is one of those signals that's part of body language. So because he was late, it sent the signal this wasn't important. He came in looking like he had all the answers. So when he opened the meeting late, dressed like $1 million, which would have been perfect for many other kinds of situations, and said, I'm really here to encourage collaboration, he'd already done it. He'd killed it. He'd killed it in the first 7 seconds.
What do you think? Do you agree or disagree that power dressing kills collaboration? Let's have a look and see what you put in the comments, in the chat box, or anything else that stood out for you in this little TED talk. Thanks for your comment, Lisa. You being human is critical. And Sia says she fully agrees. Mario, leadership style should not be reliant on dress code. Very casual, Mark Zuckerberg versus Jeff Bezos versus Jack Ma, Elon Musk, all very different, but all visionary and encouraging. Thanks, Mario. Dion says power dressing is so, so 80s. Right. Cassandra says I have mixed feelings on that. Not sure if my dress code should hinder collaboration. And context is critical. Tariq, disagree because I don't think being a leader depends on how you dress. Right. To be honest, I expected mixed responses here because I do agree, Cassandra, 100% that the context and the relationship that we have with people, that is what determines, how we pitch up. First of all, that is one of the things you need to pitch up. So maybe from a nonverbal behavior, as you mentioned, perspective, that we do want to if you want to foster collaboration, if you want to foster this healthy team ethos, there must be respect. And so, being late and not really showing remorse for that is disrespectful. And that could kind of be a hindrance in the process. But other than that, what relationship do we have? What is the context within which we work? What is our organizational culture? And do you trust me? And again, we come back to, it doesn't matter how you dress. If there was trust between us, I would collaborate either way. I have already bought into the vision or into whatever it is that we're trying to achieve through, if I just use an example, this collaborative meeting on this Saturday. I see some more comments coming through. I think it's Lene, power dressing, body language, it does impact collaboration. I think Lene, as you saw in the TED talk, it does if there was, no relationship to begin with. And if it is that, the image that's projected is, yes, we're here for collaboration, but, I don't really need you. So it is, again, coming back to it's how you pitch up. Right. So, if it, what does it mean? Coming back to the question, to be truly collaborative. Which ones, if you read through these statements, really stands out for you? It says influence rather than a top-down control, conversation rather than command, agility rather than independent silos, partnerships rather than territoriality. And I think a lot of these also came through when we asked you about the challenges. Some of these actually popped up there as these are some of the challenges that we have when we do want to foster collaboration. Let me just have a look at some of the comments. Yes, Yolanda, I agree. Always go to the one that's approachable. And again, if we look at, when we looked at that little passage, we said that a leader needs to coach rather than command. If you have a coaching mentality, you will be more approachable, as opposed to if you are commanding all the time, people will just not approach you at all. And yeah, Thea, power dressing does have its place. Absolutely. Right. So as we read through, I'm not seeing any of, in the comments, any of what stands out for you in terms of these statements that you see here on the screen. But as you read through each of them, you must realize that a collaborative culture requires an adjustment in attitude or mindset. We also need a team that has the same progressive mindset. So if we leaned more toward any of the text on the right of each statement, then we are not there yet. If we are more interested in ourselves as opposed to supporting others, if we keep information to ourselves in order for us, ourselves to look good or to use it as leverage as opposed to sharing so that we all benefit, if we are prone to blaming others rather than taking accountability, then we are not there yet. Right, so Ian, for you, mutual empowerment and joint knowledge really stands out. And Thea also agreeing joint knowledge development rather than withholding information. Yeah, absolutely. And if we think back to our teams or some teams that we've worked with before, we know how detrimental it can be when people don't share. Later on they'll kind of say, but I knew that, or I thought of that before, I just didn't want to say it. Then we know that there's something missing within our team. Collaboration for sure, missing. But other than that, we need to look deeper to see why are people not contributing? Why are they not collaborating in terms of wanting to see us thrive? And so just in terms of the last bit that I want to mention here, if we are prone to instructing and commanding as opposed to having conversations, then we are definitely also not there. So to lead collaboratively is to lead through conversation. In creating this collaborative environment, we need to set guidelines and we need to have sometimes painful discussions around trust and change and communication and decision making. Sometimes we assume that, when we are working in a team, that people will understand what that looks like. We cannot make that assumption. We need to have an open and honest discussion about what I see as trusting and trustworthiness versus what you see it to be. Even something as simple as a role definition. What is my role in what we are trying to achieve? How do I contribute? Do you value my contribution? What is it that what are some of the rewards or the remuneration? Is it fair? And of course, we do want to make sure that we talk about what were some of our wins versus what were some of the things that we could definitely have done better. So those are some conversations that has to take place for it to foster again that collaborative environment. However, we also want to reiterate that teams that don't just talk about collaboration, that actually do it, are the ones that see results. So it must come through in our actions. It must mean that we've had conversations, but post-conversation, our behavior and our actions actually talks to that. That there is that closing of the loop, and that there's constant feedback coming through from everyone in terms of what has worked and what hasn't worked. So how can we use collaboration to build exponential organizations. So I'm not sure. When I froze, I know that there was some chatter going on around some of this, I think. If someone, Sharon, can you just confirm for me real quick? Was this the question that we were talking about in the chat box?
Absolutely, Roshni. So if you scroll up a little bit, I think Sharon Mybook was the first answer, and Jade posted the question, what does a collaborative environment look like for you? And you know me, I would have specifically wanted to get some answers from the millennials, but we all are millennial. I feel millennial. So that's my age. So some of the answers, some of the responses was Sharon Mybook mentioned we are all on a learning journey. When a glitch happens, it gives an opportunity for learning. And I think she was just linking that to just creating an environment where we still feel that as if we are included is what she referred to. Dion said having a clear goal for each meeting that directly relates to the responsibilities of all attendees, assigning meeting responsibilities to each attendee so everyone has a specific way in which they are expected to participate. That's so important. It
Yeah,
just gives you direction, eh?
yeah,
Recording meetings to share with anyone unable to attend. Absolutely, Dion. That's something now that we have a luxury of doing now that we have online and we can connect with so many more people. And then Sage, I know he's a millennial. He might even be a Gen Z, Roshni, was saying for me, going from unstructured ideas and thoughts to structured, where
yeah.
everyone has collaborated, done research, and have discussions. And I think within their team, just because we know Sage, there's so much blue sky thinking happening, as Kaz has mentioned, and just knowing the level of innovation that and creativity coming from the team. That's important for us, knowing that conversation within in our space is so important when it comes to collaboration within our environment. And then I
Absolutely.
think Sia said yours is a perfect example. And that's why I said, Roshan, you did this on purpose. This was a group activity. You got yourself stuck and you wanted to see how are we going to manage this. So absolutely agree with Sia there. And then
Solving
Lisa
complex
mentioned,
problems.
I know you wanted a group activity, Roshni. That's just how you are. You're a facilitator. You think on your feet. Lisa shared that people who want to work together for greater good, the why, they don't have to think the same. Being diverse is critical. Absolutely. And diversity has got so much to do with um, about our personality, having 5 generations to work from or work with. It's my absolute pleasure to be around the youngsters within our space, just to see the way they're thinking, and how different it is and how different their responses are to ours. Being diverse is critical and beneficial, but having the same foundation of the greater good will ensure we have our eye on the prize, and that's our vision. If we know where we're working towards, then everybody's going to contribute in their way to meet that, and that's collaboration. It's togetherness for me. Ne?
Absolutely.
Simone shared a collaborative work environment is combined of the following, in my opinion: allow for the sharing of ideas on every level of the organization, thus the inclusion of all staff, no matter their job or title. Absolutely agree with that. Ensuring each member understands the responsibility, contributes to the overall team success, equipping and empowering, like a delegating is my favorite. I'm very good at that. Individuals as this retained staff, trusting individuals to complete their task without micromanaging, and however still doing the various check-ins to provide support, development, and coaching. You spot on. I almost want to say we are going to quickly summarize it with what Simone has just said, but then Yolanda, you're sharing interacting with different departments within the organization, knowing them, getting to know them is something that Roshni mentioned earlier. That contributes towards a common goal. You are so right, Yolanda. We need to make time to connect with people and know what others do so that we can pull on the skill. Is creating a matrix structure and also knowing where people want to go when they know what we do. Building collaborative relationships with external service providers as well. And yeah, and then Cassie shared you back on. So I think that the chatter was really going there with that question. I think a lot of valuable points, Roshni. So yeah, thank you to everybody for contributing.
Thank you so much, everybody. And it makes my job on this particular slide so much easier. And hence, we pose that question. And it's so good to that we got your input into this, because each and every comment in some way or form fits into what it is that we are saying, or some tips in terms of how we can use collaboration to build exponential organizations. I mean, the engagement, the making sure that everybody has access to. I heard, if there's a meeting that I missed out on, or whether I missed out on it or not, but having access to it as a recording, as something that I can go back to, is crucial for everybody to feel like they are on the same page, or even just checking. So embracing social media engagement internally and externally, even if it's just on WhatsApp, which I know many organizations are using very successfully. Even we use it successfully with some of our teams and groups. It just means that we reduce that distance and time between getting and processing information and making crucial decisions. I mean, MS Teams, we're using MS Teams at the moment for exactly this live session, but within our organization, we use it for file sharing, for access to information, and it is secure because, we do have to consider the security of people's information as well. So really coming back to embracing social technologies, making sure we have tools that allows us to engage, especially in our remote locations, especially when we are sitting with hybrid teams. We want to be able to still feel connected. And when we do directly engage with another person's thinking, we want to be able to listen actively. And I think that came through strongly, with almost every slide, and as well as our cloud as well, with some of the challenges, is that we need to listen actively and then respond to what has been said. Not just listen and kind of, say, yep, I heard you, but really to respond in a way that tells the person that we are listening to that I'm hearing you. This is where it might fit in, and this is what we could potentially, or this is how we can potentially take it forward. Ensuring that our communities, internal and external stakeholders, I think that also came through in what Sharon just mentioned now from the comments, needs to understand. And through our actions, our day-to-day actions, it needs to be inspiring, so inspiring that others actually want to be a part of it. Sometimes they want to be a part of it just because for them, maybe not the remuneration, because they might even offer their service for free, but more so they want to be involved, they want to contribute, and what they gain from that is experience and also association. So at some level, people also need to have some autonomy to be creative. And again, that's come through from the bit of a summary that Sharon made there about some of the comments, is that people have, creative ideas, but they need sometimes permission to share freely. They need to adjust the approach to situations, and we want to make decisions for customers. We want to make decisions for our own development as well. And so we need autonomy to be able to do that. And then if we look at staff on demand, that allows us to fill the expertise gaps, have a constant flow of fresh ideas. Sometimes we have flexible staff and we don't include them in the process, and that would be a big mistake, because they too are part of the organization and want to be part of something that is successful, something that is growing. And so we want to make sure that, again, in terms of inclusivity, we want to include them in the collaborative process as well. And of course, coming full circle back to, we can only do this if we embrace social technologies, if we get to understand those little niggles in terms of, how do we kind of get beyond some of the technical issues. Cassandra is saying, keen to hear, staff on demand individuals do not form part of your day-to-day team. Any advice for leaders who work with staff on demand or gig workers? Good question, Cassandra. In terms of, again, I think we come back to those having the conversations and making sure that we understand, really understand where our teams are at. What are some of our strengths? What are some of the things that we are not really so good at? And my role as a leader, what is it that I need to do in terms of facilitating that? And so the conversation must be around, or communicating, first of all, this is how we do things. What are your thoughts around that? We want to make sure that they understand the vision as well. And we want to make sure that we include them in some of the decisions that might impact them. So it's not around, just because you're not part of our day-to-day team doesn't mean that we cannot keep you informed through our WhatsApp groups or through a FAQ, frequently asked question page, or just something that gives them access to what it is that they need to do or to know in order to add value. And so I think the transparency issue is huge here. Let me just have a look. Absolutely, that framework has to be there, and of course, people have choices, and that's part of the autonomy that we're talking about. Is that people have choices in terms of whether they fit into that, whether they agree to working like that. They have an opportunity to share their view, and again, all around we are collaborating. Fear, one non-collaborative person in a team can kill the morale and the success of a team. Absolutely, fear. And I think, when we're looking at a high-performance team or just teams in general, I think we need to be able to, and this is where your leadership skills come in, is we need to be able to address the elephant in the room. Sometimes we're too afraid to call it what it is and to say that, this is not how we do things. In this team, this is how we work. This is the impact of what it is that you're doing or saying or the way that you are behaving. And so we are saying that there's going to be issues, there's going to be conflict, there's going to be problems that needs to be solved. That's never going to go away. But when we are looking at a team that's collaborative, we say we acknowledge the issue, we talk about it freely, we are transparent about it. Now let's move forward and find a solution together. And that has to be the rhetoric. That has to be how we, tackle these issues. It's about that conversation that has to be had, and then we need to follow through in terms of our actions and our behaviors. Right. We did prepare, three different just issues and potential solutions, because we know that some of these are probably common that comes through. So maybe just 2 more minutes for me, because I know that it's nearly 5 o'clock. But in terms of, some of the issues, and we say potential solutions because you might be sitting there having had this issue, but also have had a very successful solution for it. And if it's different from this, please feel free to pop it into the chat box. So again, we're coming back to context, right? But here we have one that says, sometimes at work we are given a task and then too many people are assigned to work on that same task. Because remember, we are looking at collaboration. So we are saying that you don't have to have everybody work on the task. We can intelligently, understanding who's good at what, decide who would be the best person for the task. And even that decision we can do collaboratively. Sometimes people are quite open, especially if they feel comfortable in a team, to say, you know what, I do actually still struggle with that. How about we give it to, I'm happy to shadow, I'm happy to kind of tag along and learn more, but at this point I'm not ready for that. That would be collaboration. So that would be a potential solution for that particular issue. Then when we're looking at, some people are lazy, they slack off and they're surfing on other people's work, they benefit from the ideas of others. We are saying that maybe we should implement reward structures or feedback loops. For me, again, the question would be, why are people not getting involved? So there would be a deeper issue that we need to address. And again, if we understand and know our teams really well, then we should be able to get to that root cause really, really quickly and deal with it intelligently as well. And then when we just look at the last one really quick, my problem is that there's too much groupthink which impact on creativity. So create smaller groups for brainstorming, bring them together later on, or let's get ideas anonymously before bringing everyone together to discuss. So there are ways and means if we just apply ourselves really well to some of these challenges. So I do think, just to end off again, just because we're mindful of time, is that collaboration can be time consuming when you need to involve all parties in decision making, when you need to involve everybody in problem solving and allowing for, a variety of opinions. But again, as we spoke about last month, when we lead with impact, it starts with us as leaders and the approach that we take. We understand the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities of our teams and of our workforce, and then we should know how to leverage those strengths. When we collaborate, we understand that there will be a sacrifice. Remember at the start I said we want to find effective solutions as quickly as possible. So here we might be sacrificing the time element a little bit because it might not happen as quickly as what we want. But again, if we are open to suggestions, if we are open to collaborate, if we have a growth mindset, if the commitment is there, then the advantages of a collaborative environment far outweighs the disadvantages. That's it for me, I think, in terms of time. I know that we'd like to still stay behind if there are any questions that come through, if there are any that did appear in the chat box that we haven't managed to touch on, we will definitely still have a look at that. I know that there is, I'm not sure, Jade, is there something that you still want to end off with, or is that it? I think maybe just to mention that I know that straight after or as soon as it's ready and available, the recording as well as the slide deck will be made available to all of those who participated. Thank you so much to everybody who joined for this hour. We know we have busy lives, and you still made some time to come and hear, listen and share with us for this hour. So thank you so much.